I would say being self-employed for me at this point in time has allowed me to have a ton of flexibility over my schedule. So like on a given week, I can really kind of devote time to certain areas like of work, of rest, and kind of like build my own schedule, right? But we're gonna touch later on into like this concept of like work hard, rest hard, play hard, that whole thing. But like initially, evenings were spent like watching YouTube videos about videography. Maybe I would just spend time editing. Like for me, editing was almost like playing video games, just sitting in my apartment editing some nights. It's like you have to be very disciplined, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Nick Acosta, welcome to the show.
Luke Flex, thanks for having me, man.
Is being self-employed over glamorized?
I would say in certain ways it is, and in certain ways it's not. I think there is a lot to be said that being self-employed is pretty great in some respects, from my experience.
Does being self-employed really give you that extra free time? Because that's what everyone on Instagram kind of promotes, is that like once you become self-employed,
you can just do whatever you want, when you want. Yeah. I would say being self-employed for me at this point in time has allowed me to have a ton of flexibility over my schedule. So like on a given week, I can really kind of like devote time to certain areas like of work, of rest, and kind of like build my own schedule, right? But if I don't work, it's like you have to be very disciplined, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
What was the early mindset that you had when you were pursuing videography?
Yeah. So, I'll take you back to college, and I'll take you back to high school. Like in high school, I took a videography class, and I just love to like, I don't know, like I've always like loved storytelling, and I felt like it was a good creative outlet for me. And I love the teacher. I love like some of like those ridiculous videos that I made like back then. I wish I could still have access to those. Like they've got to be like in the Whedon Academy archives, like somewhere. But
was that before YouTube? Was that like when was?
Oh,
this?
Dude, good question. Yeah, I think like that was like 2008.
Okay.
When I got into it, yeah. So like YouTube came on the scene, I think in like 2005 or 6.
Yeah.
I remember like my first, the first like comedian YouTubers I watched were, their name was Smosh. I don't know if people remember Smosh.
Yeah.
They did like a Pokemon like theme song, like parody video that blew up. But so all of like that creative like storytelling, I love that. And in high school, I fell in love with video. But you know, my parents being pretty practical were like, yeah, that's like cute that you enjoy that. But like, you know, you got to think about like the long term, like providing for a family, like a solid career, right? Like my dad was my dad's an attorney. His dad was a doctor. My mom is an accountant. Her sister also went to college and like, studied business. So I guess what I'm trying to say is in my family, going the creative entrepreneurial route is not like a thing. And it's kind of like misunderstood and almost like laughed at in my family. So yeah, but back to like when I started to, I guess, pursue video for like a career, I went to college. I kind of followed actually my mom's footsteps. Like she's an accountant. So I was like, well, if she was good at this, like it's got to be like in my DNA. So like I'll try it out. It pays well and it's consistent, right? So it's a job, and that was good, man. I think I like ranked honestly like, gosh, like number 1 out of like 52 kids. Yeah, like look at me. Like no, I don't mean to say that, but like all I'm saying is like I was good at it. Like I had it like an inclination towards it, right? But I would have talks with like people who were accountants, and they were like, yeah, man, like tax season is hell, bro. Like you're at your desk, like family time, like no family time. Like you get like 2 weeks here and there, like after tax season, but like you're just a workhorse for like at least the first, several years, and like you have no life. And also I felt like I've always gravitated more towards the arts. I played piano growing up. I got into drama and some plays, and like I just always had that inclination, right? But like I didn't think that you could make a career out of it until I met my roommate in college. whose name is Daniel Sather. He's a rock star, and we were roommates in college, and he was majoring in computer science, and we would have talks sometimes, and he was like, man, like, I just busted my butt today, like at that whatever it was, like some computer job. And I'm like, yeah, like, accounting just sucks, bro, but like, let's keep it up, right? So we'd have these talks, but then what happened is like Dan loved photography. We were actually best friends growing up, and so he'd always have his camera on him. Any kind of time we'd like go on a trip with our friend group, he'd be taking photos. And he started dating this girl in college, and her brother was actually a big-time photographer in New York, shooting weddings primarily. And he showed Dan the ropes on how to do it. And I remember just kind of watching this transformation with Dan. He went from being like, kind of like stressed out and like unsure of himself to being like, no, I actually like love photography. He'd bring people into our dorm, and he'd be like, yo, check out this dope wedding video I put together. Like, this is so cool. And I was like, oh, that is cool. Like, that looks like a movie. Like, that's sick. So he was my inspiration. I kind of saw him like after college. So by the way, he was homeschooled. Shout out to all the homeschoolers out there. I believe you, Luke, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah, same for a few years. That's how me and Dan connected initially. But anyways, because he was homeschooled, he actually could, go to college earlier. I think he like got his associates when he was like 18. So then when we went to college, he had 2 years left at this private school. I went to a private high school, but I had to take 5 years of college because of credits and this and that. But anyways, so two things. I was on a path to major in business. I went to NIU after that, parted ways with Dan. But while I was at NIU studying sales and marketing, I noticed Dan was just having the time of his life. Like, he was loving his job. He met the girl of his dreams. He like bought a house. He just seemed to exude a lot of like positivity, and he like loved what he was doing. And I was like, man, like, here I am like stressed out. I don't know what I want to do. So I was like, dude, like, just coach me. Like, I've loved videography my whole life. Like, and he's like, dude, I believe in you. You can do this. And he kind of showed me the way, and he connected me with some mentors. This was back after I graduated, probably like 2016. And then from there, I kind of like met some other people that showed me how to like, build a website, do graphic design. And then I kind of just started like, I majored in sales and marketing, right? So I would reach out to like, people getting married. I had a friend getting married in LA. So I was like, oh my gosh, I got to make this video awesome for you. Kind of use that and then leverage that video to get more work. And so that is, in a nutshell, I guess what inspired me to get into video, and sort of the rough road to get there. I didn't really explain too much of it, but
no, yeah. What were some of the first goals that you pursued, and how did you approach them?
Yeah, like to start the videography business initially.
Right, yeah, because you said you got all this inspiration from your roommate.
Right, it's daunting, dude. It's daunting because like obviously you look at your friend who's like crushing it, and then he introduced me to other guys in Chicago that also like pretty much had the same kind of mindset. Like they're all kind of similar. And I was really just like picking their brains, and I was like, okay, what's the next step here? Like, what do I need to do? And so they recommended, first of all, you have to buy like a camera, you have to buy a few lenses, and then just like become good at that, like understand how the camera works. From there, they told me like, just like come second shoot with me at a wedding. And these guys, like, by the way, like, you would think a lot of them would be like, oh, we don't want this guy to be like in our network because he's going to create more competition for us. Like, we want to hold on to like what we have. But so many entrepreneurs, like, they're in different fields, like they want young people who are driven to like succeed, and they get happy. Like, they get very happy to do that because honestly, I can't even tell you the number of people that I've networked with where like I thought gosh, like this is not like, what's the point of this? But like years later, it's like, oh sweet, they were for me a gig, or I were for them a gig. We're still friends, like, so they see the value in that, right? So they told me these things, and what I did, Luke, is I actually, I went to a coffee shop in St. Charles, and I wrote down how much money I wanted to make, specifically with videography for the year. I was teaching music for the year too, so I was like, here's how much money I want to make teaching music, here's how much money I want to make doing videography. And then I wrote down goals for the following year. And then I was like, okay, well, if I want to meet these goals, like how do I do that? Like, what are the next steps here? So, a lot of it just comes down to, yeah, like, I guess like talking to these guys who have done it, taking what they say, and then formulating your own goals based upon that, and then just executing like smart goals from that.
Do you remember those dollar amounts that you wrote down on the napkin? Did you like keep that and like frame it?
I kind of do, actually. I mean, I guess it's weird talking about like how much money, but like I think, well, okay, like piano I was teaching piano lessons after school to kids as a tutor, and I kind of like started a business doing that. So it was kind of exhausting, but I was pulling in like at least $1,000 a week in cash, and like.
From how many students?
So I had 40. But that only equates to, they were half-hour lessons, and so that only equates to 20 hours a week, right? But there's a little bit of time with like traveling to the homes, right? So I would say I was working like probably between 25 to 27 hours a week just on music, and then I had all that extra time to to devote to the video side. So the numbers you asked, I think it was like 45K music, and then just like 8 to 10K video for the first year. And I want to say I hit that, but then it was like, it's weird when you write stuff out, like the power in that. I don't know why, but just kind of like your brain kind of calibrates. It's like, well, this is a very specific thing I need to do now. And I would recommend that. So, yeah.
No, 100%, man. Something that I've learned, I'm a verbal processor, so I like to just speak it all out. But I found that by writing it down, it became much more real. All the different things that I thought I had solved in my head, like, oh, I know how I'm going to get to this next point. I realized by writing it out, I had no idea what the next point was. I had, 8 different steps, but I was going to do step 6, and that really needed to be, step 18, and trying to write it all down. So you're totally right, being able to get it out on paper and be able to visualize it.
Yeah, it just organizes your thoughts in a clear, concise way. I even recommend to people like just on a daily, like just write out like daily goals, like weekly goals, because like if you don't do that, like it will be in your head, and like you said, like it's gonna be kind of like, it's just not clear cut. When you put it on paper, it's just very clear to see. And for some reason, I don't know why, but our brain, when it sees it, is like, okay, I have to do this. Like, it's going to happen.
In the beginning, when you were trying to get your business off the ground, how long were you working each day? Were they 10-hour days? Were they 8-hour days? Were they 14-hour days? What was that in the early years?
It was quite a bit. Like, so what I did, man, is I was living at home till I was about 24. But I kind of made this like bold decision. I was like, okay, I'm making like money from the piano lessons. I'm starting out this videography career. I'm just gonna buy my own apartment, like so that I can, number one, feel like, I don't know, like I'm self-sufficient, but then also like I can just like take any time of day and just devote that to work. So and again, this is where we're gonna touch later on into like this concept of like work hard, rest hard, play hard, that whole thing. But like, initially, yeah, like evenings were spent like watching YouTube videos about videography. Maybe I would just spend time editing. Like for me, editing was almost like playing video games. So my video game session was just like, just sitting in my apartment editing some nights. But it was like fun. Like I kind of fell in love with the process, I guess. But I would say like, yeah, like at first I was probably putting in between, teaching lessons, doing videography, And I was also working at my church too, doing videos. I don't know, man, like 60 hours a week, if I had to put a number on it, for the first couple of
Yeah.
years. Yeah.
Were you working weekends as well, or did you like? What was your relationship with the weekend? How did you treat that?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing with video shoots is they're primarily on weekends. I mean, that's when weddings are. That's a lot of times when businesses are like open for you to shoot at. So it would just vary. I mean, I had weekends off for sure, but like my goal actually was to book weddings. So like, weddings are primarily Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But dude, I wouldn't trade those years for anything. It was a struggle. It was hard, but there was so much like joy in that process.
Over the past 4 or 5 years of building your business, how many times has there been a time where you've been like, I'm done. I quit. I'm going to go back to accounting or I'm going to go get a normal job. Like, how many times?
I'd say one.
Really?
Well, with the music career, with the music thing, like teaching lessons, like yeah, like many times I've like like wanted to quit that and like just be done, but I've still got a few students. It's just like fun. I just love music and I love like watching kids like get excited to learn piano. But yeah, that one I've like gone back and forth on with both video and like doing the wedding business and that I would say in 2020 when like I film big parties for a living and then there's no big parties taking place. And I was like so uncertain. I was like, well, shoot, like if this just goes on and on, like this is just what I do for a living. So is this like realistic? Is this practical? But I don't know what happened, but I was kind of watching what other people in the industry were doing and they like weren't giving up. They were, actually the government gave out some like good loan money through that time. And like, I was like, you know what, let's just push through. Let's push through. And I think in 2020, honestly, I probably lost like half my weddings. So I still had 15 out of 30. And I think this past year, like again, it was hard at first, but somewhere I hit a stride and then I was like, no, this is great. This is picking up again. But I did definitely doubt myself. I thought like, maybe this is not, maybe I should just get like a 9 to 5. That thought crossed my mind, but yeah, I'm really, really glad I stuck through it, man. Really, really glad. Gosh. I even remember there's one email I sent to somebody when they inquired about wedding videography, and I said, this is in 2020. I said, yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to do this next year like anymore. At one time, and then after that, I was like, no, don't doubt yourself, like, because our mind is like so. That's the thing with like writing down goals, like how we calibrate it, right? If you start telling yourself like, yeah, I'm not good at this anymore. This is not what I'm doing. Those doubts, you just entertain those doubts. Well, then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy and you end up like jumping ship.
How many hours a week do you work now? Like, what's sort of a normal schedule for you?
It's like 4, the 4-hour work week. No, I'm just kidding. It's embarrassing. It changed my life. I just work 4 hours a week now. So one thing I've really learned from different, like, I guess you'd call them like biohackers who like study the brain and body, is that really you can only do something really well, like let's say like you work out, like can you work out for like 4 hours straight with high intensity?
No way.
No, like an hour and a half tops, 2 hours.
Yeah.
The same is applied to like editing video. So if I wake up and have like, some awesome like coffee and I'm like on cloud 9, I can go for probably like 5 hours of like good editing. But after that, there's a diminishing return on what my quality of work is like. And so like for me, I'm like, okay, let's like get yourself in like a peak state, like high energy. Let's grind hard for 4 to 5 hours. And then let's just like rest and take it easy for some amount of time, refuel. And then in the evening, I might put in like a few more hours, but like, it's not about just like pushing and pushing and pushing because you're going to get exhausted. So I guess back to your question of how many hours did I put in a week, I would say 4 hours editing every day. That's usually in the morning. when my brain is like at its sharpest. And then I do emails for about an hour. And then if I need to put in more work in the evening, I'll like have a glass of wine and like just edit a little more. So I would say, honestly, man, like 5 to 6 hours a day. But then I do work weekends, like filming stuff too. So there's that. I also try to take off Fridays or Mondays is like a flex day where like a Luke flex day where like I like hang out with you. No, where I like it's good to have like some days where you just don't really do much. But what happens, man, is like your body and brain become accustomed to like, okay, now it's time to work super hard, be super dialed in. And then at other points, it's like, okay, now it's time to chill and just like enjoy. And you're especially being a creative type of person, like I need that rest to like be creative. I can't just pump stuff out. So, yeah.
What happens if you have a deadline of some sort and you're trying to get it done? Do you ever feel like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna extend it a little bit longer? Or how do you gauge all that?
Totally. It's not. This is not like set in stone where it's like it's just 4 hours a day. It's kind of like there's days, Luke, where it's like I want a video to be done by Friday so I can hang out with my girlfriend or something. So I'm like, okay, well, I've got Wednesday and Thursday. Why don't I just wake up at like 6 a.m., have a ton of coffee, do those 4 hours, take a nap, eat some food, relax, and then just hit it hard again. So I put in like 8 hours on those 2 days. So it's kind of just based on like, yeah, like the deadline, you know? If I want to work harder because I need something done, I have the flexibility to do that. But then I do, again, like I like to have more of a rhythm too, because my body and brain just function at their best when I'm in that like that rhythm. And
Yeah,
I'm actually more productive that way too, and better to be around, you know.
Yeah, you almost have a consistent pace that you're going at as well. And there's also something called Parkinson's law, where it's like, let's say if you have a paper due by Friday, like or a video due by Friday and it's Monday, or let's say you're trying to get that all done in 1 day or 2 days. If you really stay focused and you have that deadline set, you'll get it done in those 1 or 2 days if you're really locked in. Now, is that sustainable over the long term? I don't know. But if you needed to get it done, you could get it done instead of like, right? It's kind of like writing papers in high school where it's like you had the whole week to write it. So you're sitting there Saturday night or Sunday night till midnight writing it out versus you had the whole week. Why are you waiting to the last minute? It's almost better to set the deadline a little bit sooner, but that's what gets difficult about working for yourself, right? Is who's there to push you?
Right, exactly. I mean, yeah, that's actually a great point because I actually do kind of have a deadline. Like I try to get one video done per week, but that is like those 4 hours. If I do that right, those 4 hours a day, hands down, it's going to get done. It's those times where I'm like traveling or spending more time with somebody else or whatever, where I'm like, then I have to crunch it. But yeah, that's it's when you're self-employed, you do have to. You got to be strict on yourself, man. You really do. I mean, the business won't continue if you're not. So.
Do you find it difficult to say no to things whenever someone invites you out or it's inside of like, hey man, let's go grab breakfast, and you're like, hey, this is my time to like do deep work.
So you're saying like not work projects, but like fun activities to say.
Right. Yeah. Do you have trouble saying no or?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I do. But like the kind of the beauty and kind of what I was explaining about like working your schedule is like, if it is like a friend that I haven't seen in years and they're in town, I'm like, and I don't mean to pick on like 9 to 5 jobs, but like if you had a 9 to 5 job and your boss is like, you got to stay later on the day and your friend's only in town till that time, well, you're out of luck. You can't see that friend that's in town. But I do have that flexibility where I can be like, okay, they're important to me. I don't see them that much, so I'm going to work hard this chunk. I'm going to see them, and then I'm going to wake up early the next day, knock out the rest, So I would say like, yeah, like maybe I do have a hard time saying no because I have more flexibility, But I think it's so important though too, to like value like relationships and value those like friendships, because the struggle being an entrepreneur too is you can get too much in that camp of like just work, just grind. And there's potential for that, but there's also potential to have a life that's like very free, very very relationship focused too. You just have to play your cards right.
I was listening to a podcast where both guys are married, they have kids, and one of the guys asked the other guy, he goes, "Hey, if you didn't have, if you didn't get married, if you stayed single, didn't have kids, would you be where you are today?" And like before the guy even finishes the question, the other guy goes, "Absolutely not. Absolutely not." He's like, "My wife and my kids, that's what keeps me in check. That's what keeps my priorities perfect. Otherwise," he's like, "I would be working, I would have burned out a decade earlier and I would have been done."
Wow, yeah. I think it's twofold. Number one, it forces you to like not work as much because you got to spend time with your wife and your kids, right? That's important. And number two, like we're talking about that rest and play scenario, like that relationship with your wife and kids like fuels you and gives you more drive. So I think it's great. Yeah. I mean, obviously, like everybody's not meant to, you know, you know, get married and have a family, but I think there's a lot of benefit to have that in the sense where you are forced to not work as much, but that's good for you.
If there's someone listening who is working a 9 to 5 and they have some sort of creative outlet, maybe they've started on it, maybe they haven't, what advice would you give to them to start the process of right figuring out whether this thing that they really want to go do is something they want to pursue? How do they start to create that time?
Okay, how's the person who's working 9 to 5? They've got a creative passion. How do they take some steps to like? Are you asking to assess if that is like a route that would work to be like a full-time job?
More so, how would they actually just get started? So many people have these like really cool creative ideas, but they never execute. And they're like, I'll get to it tomorrow. And then they're in their
Yeah.
9 to 5. And then they're like, I hate this job so much. When I get home,
Yeah,
I'm going to
I
go
don't
work
want
on
to do
it.
anything else. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's unfortunately you have to do two. I would say you mean you really just have two options there. Like, you either have to, push through that being tired and make some time in the evening or morning before you go to your 9 to 5 to devote to that creative outlet. Weekends, you could just do weekends and not, during the week. Or you could quit that job, take some job that's paying you something, like 4 hours a day, maybe 20 hours a week, and then use all that free creative space to pursue that creative endeavor. I think it's so important and key for that person to. I mean, it's overly stressed to find mentors. I mean, you hear that all the time, but like, it's so true, man. Because if you don't know somebody that's like done something and like you can see them living their life, and like them, like if you don't have anybody like that, and it's just in your head, like you're like, oh, like this would be a cool lifestyle. Like if I'm a creative person, I can just like do this. But unless you have some concrete examples of people that you can see doing it, your your conception in your head, it just might not be realistic, right? So I would say, yeah, it's key for that person to find like people in that field that are, that they aspire to be like. Ask them for action steps, and then just come up with like a practical game plan. Like it could be going to a coffee shop and writing out like, here's my schedule for the week. Like here's some times where I want to devote to the creative endeavor. Here's what John, who's already crushing it in that field, is doing. Here's what he advises me to do. Is it going to be tough and take discipline? Yeah, like you're going to have to say no to some things. Like, but at the end of the day, like you gotta, we get one chance at life, for all we know. And in America, we've got so many like cool resources and mentors and people. So it's like, take advantage of that. So it is different for people who are already maybe, married or more tied down to a house or different careers. But I still think if you want it bad enough, I think there's a way. There's always a way.
Yeah, that's the thing that I keep telling myself and keep telling the friends around me who are creative. I'm like, this is the time to go ham because your responsibilities are quite low. And if you're still living at home, expenses are probably low. And maybe you're paying your parents an extra couple
It's
hundred
a great
dollars a
window of
month.
opportunity. Yeah.
It's the time to really get serious about it, because as life goes on, it's just there's going to be a little bit more of a barrier. You have a wife, you have kids, now you're locked into a
Yep.
job.
Student loans. That's a
Yeah.
big key component. Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
Which books did you read early on that were helpful in the process of starting your business and keeping that mindset focused?
There's a good book called The Power of Habit. That was insightful. Yeah, a couple books that come to mind. But anyways, that one was about like kind of just like obviously we are a collection of our habits, right? So like if you can just like start every day, for example, with like the person wanting to start a business, right? So like maybe they wake up at a certain time, they go for a little run, they come back, they do some research on the business. It's going to suck at first to do that, but then over time they start to enjoy it. And so that book taught me that like, yeah, these things might be difficult, but in a weird way, if you can do that enough, your body eventually is like, this is kind of enjoyable. Like, it's time to research, it's time to create, it's time to edit, whatever it is. So that was insightful. I really like Jordan Peterson. I liked his book, 12 Rules for Life, and then his follow-up book was another, I think it's called just like another 12 Rules for Life. I read that, and yeah, I think especially like it's kind of geared more towards, I guess, like men in some respects, to just kind of take ownership of like you do have like one shot at this life, and like go hard, like make something of yourself, like be disciplined, stay away from like all the honeypots like of like, you know, just working for money because your parents told you to, or stay away from like drugs or alcohol. Like he's just very, I don't know, he just has a way of like motivating, I guess, you to be the best version of yourself. So that was key, and yeah, I guess those were a couple books that I think I read, especially like when I was starting the business in my apartment. I would like at night just like read these books and like fall asleep, and it would kind of kind of stew on it. So
Where do you want to see your business in the next couple of years? What are your plans for it as you continue to learn and grow and expand?
yeah, I see this kind of trend with my friends who have been in the industry for after several years. A lot of them do get married, they have kids, and the nice thing about this job is you can devote a lot of time to spend with your family. You can work from home. You can send associate videographers to weddings if you want to. And so right now I've got about 30 to 35. I think this year I'm like 36 weddings total. So it's like, I want, I do want to get married and have a family eventually. So I would like to only probably accept between 20 to 25, but upcharge those like heck. Still provide, but provide like a super high quality product, and really get to know those clients well. So yeah, the end game would be to scale back on the quantity, and empower, younger videographers like you're friends with like Josh Forth and like guys like that would want work and want to get experience with weddings. So it would help them, it'd help me, and I'd be more of just the backseat like managerial role, but still I love I love storytelling, I love weddings, so I'd still keep on 20 to 25.
In your pursuit of finding that balance, how do you keep Christ at the center of your life?
Yeah, it's funny, my girlfriend and I just had a Bible study today, and we were talking about like practical ways to do that, and it's kind of just you got it just sounds cliche, but like you got to spend every day like in God's word, a little bit. Something is more than nothing, and like it's like when I talk about the habits, it's like that just becomes such a part of my day to where I just do it. I pray out loud a lot of times, and it's not just because I'm doing this to earn points with God. Like God doesn't really, that's not how God operates. It's a relationship, right? And I find that on days where I do that, I do feel like I bring more of the Holy Spirit into my interactions with people. I feel like I'm less like judgmental at times. I feel like I'm like just putting forth more effort for my clients, right? So, yeah, again, like as cliche as it is, like just doing that consistent Bible time, prayer, and just being around other believers, like it's just stuff that you got to do. But man, it really pays. Like, not that you should do it to pay dividends, but it does spiritually. And I guess that's like what I do. And every time I do a video, it's like a very spiritual. It's kind of spiritual, man, because like these two people are committing their lives to each other, right? And I'm like kind of the medium where I'm like observing it and soaking it in on a camera, and then I have to like feel it out and then give it back to them. And I find the whole process to be just like number one, very spiritually like nourishing for me. And I get to, I don't know, I feel like with God, like he kind of gives me like insights, and I into like putting the video together or whatever. And also like just that like satisfaction of giving them the product and like serving them like I would like a brother or a friend, like how Christ would serve us. You know, that's like important to me. And yeah, that's how I bring God into, I guess, my daily life and then my like work life, or try to. I'm not perfect. I definitely forget some days. We all do. So
That's beautiful, man. I guess I never thought about it like that way, that you're literally documenting one of the most significant days of their life into this video, or if you do photography or you have other people, like these are commemorating a special moment, a special day into, 6-minute video, 8-minute video, 4-minute video.
yeah, right. It's kind of scary too. It's like, man, this better like knock your socks off, you know? Like there's some pressure, but at the same time you like, it's just like anything, like you become more, you understand what people like to see, and then it's not as much pressure, but like it is a big deal. Like it's their one moment, like once in a lifetime moment. So
Nick, if people wanted to follow you or learn more about what you do, where should we send them?
yeah, I mean, they can always reach out to me on my website. It's acostacinema.com. They can shoot me a DM on Instagram. It's at Acosta_cinema. My name is Nick Christian Acosta. Just shoot me a DM on Instagram. I'm always down to like have coffee. I think you did that with me like a couple years back. Like it makes my day. Like I love like entrepreneurs who want to kick ass and like learn, just kind of try to get a roadmap of how to do it. So anybody's welcome to reach out.
Thanks again, Nick. I appreciate you coming on to the show, man. It's been awesome.
Absolutely, brother. Yep.
What's happening, people? Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, then press here for a selection of the best clips from the podcast over the last few weeks. And consider subscribing. Peace.